The soft manufactured twilight of Elara's room always felt like a secret. Outside her wide curved window, the other biodomes of Lumina City glowed like oversized pearls strung across the dusty cratered plains of lunar Viridia. Beyond them, a vast velvety canvas stretched, dusted with 1,000,000 diamond chips, the true stars, unblinking and ancient. It was a view that made her chest ache with a quiet, persistent wonder, a feeling she rarely found words for. "Pip," she whispered, her voice barely disturbing the hum of the air recyclers. From a sleek charging cradle by her bed, a small spherical drone detached itself with a gentle whir. Pip, her personal AI companion, floated to her side, its single optical sensor glowing a soft, curious blue. "Yes, Elara? Are you ready for your sleep cycle? Your parents requested I remind you of your early biolinguistics lesson tomorrow." Pip's voice was a comforting blend of synthetic clarity and genuine warmth, programmed to adapt to Elara's emotional state. Elara ignored the reminder. Her fingers brushed against a small tarnished silver disc she held, a relic from her great-grandmother supposedly. It was smooth and cool, intricately etched with symbols she didn't fully understand, but which resonated with something deep inside her. "Not yet, Pip. I think it's coming." Pip tilted slightly, its blue eye widening. "The Starwhis, my sensors are not detecting any anomalous cosmic microwave background radiation, nor any unusual gravimetric distortions. All interstellar communication channels remain within standard parameters." Elara smiled faintly. "It's never standard, Pip, and it's not like a message, it's a feeling, a song but not with sound, like the stars themselves are sighing." She closed her eyes, pressing the silver disc against her temple. She didn't need the disc, not really. It was more of a ritual, a focus. The true connection came from within her, a sensitivity her parents, both brilliant xenolinguists, found fascinating but ultimately puzzling. They'd run tests, of course, scanning her brain activity, mapping her neural pathways, but had only concluded she possessed an unusually high receptivity to subtle energetic fluctuations. To Elara, it was just home. Tonight, the feeling was a delicate tremor, a vibration that started in her fingertips and spread through her bones, settling in her chest. It wasn't loud or forceful, but incredibly intricate. She pictured it in her mind, not a sound wave, but shimmering threads of light, each a different color, weaving together, pulsing with slow, deliberate rhythm. Gold, violet, deep indigo, swirling and intertwining. And within the colors, emotions. A profound, ancient melancholy, a boundless curiosity, a quiet hope. Can you see it, Pip?" she murmured, her voice laced with the trance-like quality that often accompanied her Starwhis moments. Pip projected a holographic display above its spherical body, showing complex spectral analyses and data streams. "My current algorithms are attempting to translate the perceived energetic patterns into visual representations based on your previous descriptions, Elara. The closest analog I can generate is a series of fluctuating geometric fractals, highly complex and non-repeating." The fractals shimmered, a pale echo of what Elara felt. "It's more than fractals," Elara sighed, opening her eyes. "It's stories. Without words. Like the universe is dreaming, and I'm listening in." Her parents, Dr. Aris and Dr. Lena Vance, were busy decoding the complex languages of newly discovered alien species, their lives consumed by the grand project of interstellar communication. They were fluent in a dozen galactic tongues, but the language of the Starwhis remained beyond their grasp, a beautiful enigma they observed in their daughter with a mixture of scientific interest and parental concern. They called it her special perception, gently encouraging her artistic interpretations, but always bringing her back to the tangible, the measurable. For Elara, the Starwhis was profoundly tangible. It was the background hum of her existence, a constant, gentle presence that shaped her understanding of everything. The artificial lights of Lumina City, the synthetic textures of her clothes, the carefully recycled air, all of it felt thin, almost transparent, compared to the deep, resonant reality of the Starwhis. She slid off her bed and walked to the curved window, pressing her hand against the cool duraplex. The distant stars seemed to pulse in time with the subtle thrum inside her. "It feels different tonight, Pip," she said, her voice barely audible. Stronger, like it's closer. Pip zipped closer, its blue eye focusing on her face. Different how, Elara? Can you quantify the variance in emotional harmonics, or perhaps the perceived spatial origin? Elara shook her head. Not how, just more. Like a wave building. And there's a new thread. Something bright, like a single clear note in a symphony of sighs. She traced a pattern on the window with her finger, following the invisible lines of the Starwhis. It felt like a fresh narrative emerging from the ancient tapestry, a new chapter beginning. Her parents had told her stories of the first listeners, the original pioneers who had ventured beyond Earth's cradle and discovered the Starwhis. They were not scientists, but poets and artists, who spoke of the universe singing, of light that carried memory, and of silence that hummed with untold stories. Their accounts were often dismissed as poetic embellishments by later, more empirical generations, but Elara understood. She felt in what they spoke of. Sometimes, when the Starwhis was particularly vivid, she would sketch the patterns she perceived. Her room was filled with these drawings, intricate mandalas of color, flowing lines that seemed to dance across the page, abstract shapes that somehow conveyed immense emotional depth. Her art teacher at the Lunar Academy called them remarkably expressive, but her classmates, accustomed to the precise logical art of architectural rendering or data visualization, found them perplexing. Elara, your biolinguistics lesson tomorrow focuses on the proto-syntax of the Cathar language, a complex system of vibratory communication. It would be beneficial to rest. Pip's voice was gentle, but persistent. I know. She sighed, turning from the window. But how can I sleep when the universe is whispering secrets? She settled back onto her bed, clutching the silver disc. Pip dimmed its light, hovering patiently. Elara closed her eyes again, letting the Starwhis wash over her. The new bright thread she'd felt earlier was growing, weaving itself through the familiar, ancient hum. It felt like anticipation. Like a distant lighthouse beacon, shining steadily through a cosmic fog. She focused, trying to unravel this new thread. It wasn't just light, it was a pulse, a rhythm. Faster than the slow contemplative beat of the usual Starwhis. It carried a sensation of urgency but not fear. More like a call. A direct, almost personal invitation. She felt a flicker of something she couldn't quite name, a memory that wasn't hers, a fleeting image of nebulae swirling like paint on a cosmic canvas. Then a sensation of immense speed, like flying through a tunnel of starlight. It was gone as quickly as it came, leaving her breathless. Pip, she whispered, her eyes still closed. I think it wants something. The Starwhis is an inanimate phenomenon, Elara, Pip responded, though its tone held a hint of uncertainty. It is a complex natural resonance, not a sentient entity with desires. But what if it's not natural in the way we think? Elara countered, her voice soft but firm. What if it's a leftover? Like ancient echoes from a time before anything we know? Or what if it's alive in a different way? Not like us, but like a cosmic dream? Pip remained silent for a moment, processing. The concept of a cosmic dream is highly abstract and lacks empirical support. However, your hypothesis regarding residual energetic signatures from previous universal epochs, or the possibility of non-biological sentient energy forms, while speculative, cannot be entirely disproven given our current limited understanding of the Starwhis. Elara smiled. Pip, for all its logic, was always open to her wilder theories. It was why she loved her AI companions so much. The new thread intensified, becoming less a whisper and more a hum, a distinct melody within the grand symphony. It filled her with a strange mix of exhilaration and a profound sense of destiny. She felt a pull, a gentle but undeniable tug, as if the Starwhis were inviting her on a journey. I have to understand it, Pip, she said, her eyes snapping open, shining with a newfound resolve. I have to know what it means, what this new part is, it's calling to me. Your parents would likely suggest a methodical scientific approach, Elara, Pip stated, ever practical. Data collection, hypothesis formulation, controlled experimentation. And they would be right, for their kind of Starwhis, Elara replied, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. But this is my kind, and I don't think it wants to be measured, I think it wants to be felt. She stood up, walking back to the window. The luminous city lights seemed dull now, the great expanse of stars beyond, vibrant and alive. She had always felt different, a little out of step with the meticulously planned efficient rhythm of luminous city. While other children chased holographic sprites in the public parks, or immersed themselves in simulated historical adventures, Elara spent hours in quiet contemplation, listening to the Starwhis. She was a ghost in the machine of her own perfect world, always searching for something beyond the polished surfaces and predictable algorithms. Her parents, in their earnest efforts to understand her, had once taken her to the Cosmic Harmony Institute, a research facility nestled in a secluded dome on the far side of lunar Viridia. It was a place where scientists studied rare cosmic phenomena, where ancient telescopes peered into the deepest reaches of space, and where the most advanced sensory arrays were tuned to listen for any anomalous signals. They had hoped the Institute's specialized equipment could help Elara better define her perceptions. She remembered the sterile white walls, the hushed voices, the glowing readouts of complex data. They had placed her in a soundproof chamber, hooked her up to elaborate neural interface helmets, and instructed her to focus on the Starwhis. She had tried. She truly had. But the Starwhis, so vibrant and alive within her, had retreated in the face of such aggressive scrutiny. It had become a faint, distant echo, unwilling to be dissected and catalogued. It doesn't like being trapped, she had told her mother afterwards, her voice small. It wants to be free. Her mother, Dr. Lena Vance, had knelt, her eyes warm with sympathy. Perhaps it's a very subtle frequency, darling. One that our instruments, even the most sensitive, interfere with. But Elara knew it was more than that. The Starwhis was not just a frequency, it was a consciousness, however alien and vast, and it recoiled from being forced into human parameters. Now, standing by her window, she realized the new thread in the Starwhis felt different even from that. It wasn't just subtle, it was inviting. It was like the universe itself was leaning in, offering a secret, not demanding to be heard, but gently suggesting. Pip, access the Luminicity archives for any historical records pertaining to the Starwhis, Elara instructed, her voice filled with a quiet intensity. Focus on non-scientific accounts, particularly those from the first listener's era. Look for descriptions of changes, new patterns, anything that hints at an evolving nature. Pip's blue eye pulsed. Searching. Prioritizing poetic and anecdotal entries as per your instruction, this will bypass the heavily filtered and scientifically validated historical data sets. Good, Elara said, a spark of excitement igniting within her. Because I think the Starwhis might be trying to tell us something new, something the scientists couldn't hear. She looked out at the vast, starry expanse, the true home of the Starwhis. It was a canvas of infinite possibilities, of stories yet untold. And she, Elara, the girl who heard the universe sigh, felt ready to listen to them all. The bright, insistent thread in the Starwhis pulsed again, a clear, silent chime in her heart. It was still there, still calling, drawing her gaze towards a particular cluster of stars, a swirling nebulous cloud she knew was light years away. She felt a profound sense of purpose, a gentle urgency that settled deep within her. Any matches, Pip? Initial search parameters yielding numerous poetic interpretations of cosmic hum and celestial song, Pip reported, its holographic display now scrolling through ancient texts, fragments of forgotten poems, and digital renderings of long-lost artworks. One entry from the first listener scrolls, attributed to an individual known as Anya the Weaver, describes a bright thread within the tapestry of night, a new chord struck in the silence of ages, occurring approximately 5 centuries ago. This description aligns with your current perception of a new thread and bright note. Elara's breath hitched. 5 centuries ago? That was around the time the first deep space probes were launched beyond the solar system, long before the establishment of lunar Viridia. Could there be a connection? What happened after Anya the Weaver described this bright thread? Elara urged, her heart pounding with a quiet excitement. Did it lead to anything? Any discoveries? Pip continued to scroll, its internal processors working furiously. The scrolls become less coherent following that entry, Elara. There are mentions of journeys taken, stars reached, and wisdom found, but the specific details are lost or intentionally obscured. The consensus among historical scholars is that Anya the Weaver, along with a small group of fellow listeners, undertook a self-imposed exile, venturing into deep space to pursue their interpretations of the Starwhis, never to return. Never to return. Elara felt a shiver, but it wasn't of fear. It was of recognition, of connection across centuries. Anya the Weaver, another listener, another soul who had heard the universe's secret song. They followed it, Pip, Elara whispered, looking at the distant, sparkling nebula. They followed the bright thread. The Starwhis intensified again, and Elara felt the faint, distant memory of speed, of stars rushing past, of a journey into the unknown. It was so vivid, so real, that for a moment she was Anya, soaring through the cosmic dark, guided by the silent melody. Pip, she said, her voice firm, can you cross-reference that nebula with any known deep space anomalies? Anything that might correspond to a new chord or a bright thread from that era? Pip's blue eye glowed brighter. Running advanced astronomical data correlation. This will require significant processing power and access to restricted astronomical databases. Parental override may be required. Elara chewed on her lip. Her parents would undoubtedly question her motives, perhaps even discourage her, citing safety protocols and the impracticality of such an endeavor. But the pull was undeniable now. The Starwhis wasn't just a phenomenon. It was a path. Just try, Pip, Elara said, her gaze fixed on the distant nebula. Just see what you can find. Don't worry about the override yet. Pip hummed softly, a sound of quiet agreement. Elara knew it would do its best. And as she looked out at the endless expanse of stars, the Starwhis thrumming gently within her, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The universe was bigger, more mysterious, and infinitely more alive than anyone in Lunar City truly understood. And she, Elara, was ready to explore its deepest secrets. The bright thread was calling, and she would answer. The bright thread was calling, and she would answer. With a final, gentle thrum, the Starwhis disengaged from Lunar City's orbital dock, its sleek bioluminescent hull shimmering like a pearl in the soft glow of the city lights below. Elara felt the familiar, comforting surge of the gravity dampeners as they activated, counteracting the initial acceleration. No jarring lurch, just a smooth, almost imperceptible slide into the void. Course laid in, Elara. Pip's voice, a soft chime in her ear, was accompanied by a cascade of data scrolling across her main console. Following the primary resonance signature of the bright thread, initial projections suggest a journey through uncharted sectors. Estimated time to first significant anomaly, approximately 3 cycles at standard warp. Elara leaned back in her pilot's chair, letting her fingers drift over the smooth, cool surfaces of the controls. The Starwhis was more than a ship. It was an extension of herself, a vessel woven with living energy and advanced, intuitive AI. Its neural net pulsed with quiet readiness, mirroring her own anticipation. 3 cycles, Elara murmured, a smile playing on her lips. Sounds like an adventure, Pip. Let's see what this bright thread truly is. As the Starwhis engaged its primary drive, the stars outside stretched into brilliant, ethereal streaks, then resolved into a swirling vortex of hyperspace. The familiar kaleidoscopic tunnel formed around them, a river of pure light and fractured reality. But this time, something was different. Woven into the usual warp stream shimmer was another, subtler pattern, a faint iridescent strand, glowing with a soft, persistent light. It wasn't just a sensor reading. Elara could feel it, a resonant hum deep within her bones, a whisper of connection that bypassed the usual channels of perception. The thread, she breathed, pressing a hand to the viewport, as if she could touch the shimmering path. It's visible. Indeed, Pip confirmed, a touch of surprise in its tone. Sensors confirm a unique energy signature, co-locating with our warp field. It appears to be a stable, highly coherent energy conduit. Remarkable, it's almost as if it's meant to be followed. Days bled into weeks in the timeless expanse of hyperspace. Elara fell into a comfortable rhythm of monitoring the Starwhis, running diagnostics and poring over ancient star charts, trying to find any echo, any forgotten legend that might hint at their destination. Pip, ever vigilant, kept the ship on course, its processing cores humming with the constant analysis of the bright thread's subtle fluctuations. Sometimes Elara would simply sit by the viewport, watching the bright thread pulse and shimmer, feeling the deep cosmic solitude that was both vast and strangely comforting. She thought of Lunar City, a distant memory now, and the quiet lives lived beneath its artificial sky. They knew nothing of this, of the true, raw wonder of the universe. A pang of loneliness would sometimes surface, quickly replaced by a profound sense of privilege. She was here, following a mystery, a cosmic secret unfolding just for her. Elara. Pip's voice broke the quiet one cycle, a new urgency in its tone. Anomalous readings ahead, disengaging warp in 60 seconds, prepare for potential gravitational instability. The kaleidoscope of hyperspace rippled and dissolved, revealing a breathtaking vista that stole Elara's breath. They had emerged into a nebula, but unlike any she had ever seen. It wasn't a cloud of gas and dust, it was a vast, shimmering tapestry of light, woven with threads of impossible color. And through its heart, like a river of pure starlight, flowed the bright thread, thicker and more vibrant now, a beacon guiding them deeper. By the void, Elara whispered, utterly captivated. Designated, the Weaver's Veil by my systems, based on visual and energetic signatures, Pip supplied, its voice betraying a hint of its own algorithmic awe. Gravitational fluctuations are extreme but localized. The Starwhis's dampeners are holding. However, there are unique energy signatures within the veil, non-baryonic, unidentifiable. As they drifted deeper into the nebula, Elara realized the threads of light weren't static. They moved, slowly, gracefully, like cosmic currents, swirling around colossal, crystalline structures that floated in the luminous haze. These crystals some miles across weren't inert rock. They pulsed with a soft internal light, their facets catching and refracting the nebula's glow into dazzling rainbows. What are those crystals, Pip? Elara asked, leaning forward, her face pressed almost against the viewport. Initial analysis suggests they are silicon-carbon lattices, but imbued with an unknown energy. They appear to be resonating with the bright thread, perhaps amplifying it. Suddenly, a thread of light, thicker than the Starwhis itself, detached from the nebula's tapestry and began to drift towards them. It wasn't aggressive, but curious, like a probing tendril. Elara felt a prickle of unease, quickly overridden by fascination. "Hold position, Pip," she commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Let's observe." The luminous thread circled the Starwhis slowly, its light washing over the ship, making the bioluminescent hull glow even brighter. Elara felt it then, not just a light but a touch. A gentle, inquisitive probe that seemed to bypass her shields and sensors, reaching directly into her mind, not with words, but with a complex symphony of sensation. It was a feeling of vast age, of quiet power, of intricate beauty. It felt like a greeting. "Energy fluctuation detected within the Starwhis's core," Pip reported, its tone now laced with genuine concern. "The thread is interacting directly with our systems. No damage, but it's a deep-level probe, Elara. It's analyzing us." Elara closed her eyes, letting the sensation wash over her. "It's not hostile, Pip. It's assessing, like a curious child, but one with the wisdom of eons." After a long moment, the luminous tendril retracted, rejoining the Weaver's Veil. The nebula continued its slow, majestic dance, but Elara felt a subtle shift. It was as if they had been acknowledged. "The thread has resumed its original energy signature," Pip confirmed. "However, there's a new data stream embedded within it, a complex, non-linguistic pattern. It resembles a special map, but encoded in a fractal geometry I've never encountered." "A map?" Elara's eyes widened. "It's showing us where to go." It appears so. The bright thread is not just a path, it is a communication. It is leading us to a specific destination within the Weaver's Veil. A convergence point, perhaps. They navigated the swirling currents of light, the Starwhis's advanced drives weaving through the intricate energy fields. The crystalline structures grew larger, more complex, forming vast, glittering cathedrals of light. It was a world entirely made of energy and crystal, a silent, breathtaking symphony of creation. Finally, the fractal map led them to a space where the bright thread flared into a brilliant, almost blinding nexus of energy. Here, the crystalline structures formed a colossal, spiraling gateway, its facets reflecting the thread's light into a kaleidoscope of impossible brilliance. And at the heart of this gateway, suspended in the pure energy, was something utterly unexpected. It was an object, yet not an object in the conventional sense. It was a sphere, perhaps a mile in diameter, composed of tightly interwoven strands of the bright thread itself, glowing with an intense, pure white light. Within its translucent surface, Elara could discern faint, shifting patterns, like distant galaxies swirling in miniature. It hummed with a resonance that vibrated through the Starwhis, through Elara's very being, a frequency that felt ancient and alive. "What is that, Pip?" she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "Analyzing," Pip replied. "Its process is working at maximum capacity. Initial data suggests it is a stable, self-sustaining construct of pure energy. The interwoven strands appear to be identical to the bright thread itself. It is radiating an immense amount of exotic particles. And something else, a form of information, perhaps, a library, or a sea." As they drew closer, Elara felt a profound sense of peace emanating from the sphere. It wasn't just light and energy. It was knowledge, history, a whisper of countless stories. She saw flashes in her mind's eye, not her own memories, but fleeting impressions. The birth of stars, the slow dance of galaxies, the intricate patterns of life emerging on countless worlds. It was as if the sphere was broadcasting the very essence of the universe. "Pip, can you establish a more direct link?" Elara asked, her voice hushed. "I want to understand it. I want to feel what it's saying." "Proceeding with caution, Elara," Pip warned. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered. It could be overwhelming." A soft, luminous probe extended from the Starwhis, a fragile tendril of light reaching towards the radiant sphere. As it made contact, a surge of energy washed over the ship. Elara gasped, not from pain, but from the sheer volume of information that flooded her senses. It wasn't data points or algorithms. It was pure, unadulterated experience. She felt the slow, majestic pulse of the cosmos, the silent, intricate dance of dark matter, the joyous burst of a supernova. She saw civilizations rise and fall, not as a detached observer, but as if she witnessed them, experiencing their hopes, their fears, their triumphs, their inevitable demises. It was an ocean of existence, condensed into a single breathtaking moment. Then, a specific image coalesced amidst the torrent. A vast, intricate network of bright threads, stretching across the entire known and unknown universe. Each thread connected to a sphere like the one before them, and each sphere seemed to be a repository, a beacon, a focal point. The bright thread they had followed was just one strand in an unimaginably grand tapestry. The Weaver's Veil," Elara murmured. The name Pip had given the nebula now imbued with a deeper meaning. "It's where the threads are spun. My analysis confirms a network of interconnected energy conduits," Pip stated, its voice strained. "These spheres appear to be nodes in that network. They are transmitting and receiving vast quantities of what appears to be cosmic consciousness. A collective mind, perhaps, or a universal record." The sphere began to pulse with a new rhythmic beat, and the patterns within it shifted, becoming more defined. Elara saw images of life, evolving, reaching, exploring. And then, an image of her. Elara, in the Starwhis, following the thread. It was as if the network had been expecting her, had been guiding her all along. A profound realization dawned on her. The bright thread wasn't just a random anomaly, it was an invitation. An invitation to join, to learn, to contribute to this vast living network of cosmic consciousness. But with this understanding came a new, unsettling thought. If this network encompassed the entire universe, if it held all knowledge and experience, what was its purpose? Was it merely an archive, or was it an active force shaping destinies? And if so, what role was Elara meant to play? The sphere pulsed faster, and the images became more specific. Not just of the past, but of possibilities, of branching futures. She saw echoes of conflict, of civilizations clashing, of the delicate balance of life being threatened. And then, an image of something broken, a snapped thread, a darkened sphere, a tear in the cosmic tapestry. Elara, disengaging the link. Pip's voice was sharp, cutting through the overwhelming sensory input. The data stream is becoming volatile. There's an influx of distress signals, not from this sphere but from another node in the network, far distant. The connection snapped, and Elara gasped, clutching her head. The vivid images faded, leaving her disoriented but strangely energized. The Starwhis hummed, its systems settling back into normal, though Pip's voice still held a tremor of concern. "Are you all right, Elara? That was intense." Elara slowly pushed herself upright, her mind reeling. I'm fine, Pip, but I understand now. The bright thread, it's a lifeline, and part of the network is in trouble." She looked at the luminous sphere, no longer just a source of wonder, but a silent plea. The distress signals, what did you make of them? "Fragmented but clear in their intent," Pip replied. "A node is in peril. A significant portion of the network is experiencing a localized collapse. The coordinates are embedded within the final burst of data. It's incredibly far, beyond the known boundaries of charted space, even for Lunar City's long-range probes." Elara stared out at the magnificent, silent sphere, then at the unwavering, powerful flow of the bright thread leading further into the unknown. The journey had begun with a whisper of wonder, a call to explore. Now, it had become something more. A mission. "Pip," Elara said, her voice firm, her gaze resolute. "Set a course to those coordinates. We're going to find out what happened to that node, and if we can, we're going to help." Pip paused, a silent moment of processing. "It will be a journey of unprecedented length and risk, Elara. We are entering truly uncharted territory. The Starwhis's endurance will be tested to its limits. Then we will push its limits," Elara countered, a fierce determination burning in her eyes. The profound sense of purpose she had felt back in Lunar City had now crystallized into a clear, undeniable directive. "The bright thread called me here for a reason, and now it's calling me further. This isn't just exploration anymore, Pip. This is a rescue." As the Starwhis turned its prow towards the new daunting coordinates, leaving the magnificent Weaver's veil behind, Elara felt the subtle thrum of the bright thread change. It was no longer just a path. It was a connection, a shared pulse, a silent plea for help from across the vast, intricate web of the cosmos. And Elara, with Pip by her side, was ready to answer that call, to venture into the deepest, most mysterious reaches of the universe, where the very fabric of reality was woven, and where a single fragile thread might hold the key to everything. The subtle thrum intensified, a vibration not just in the ship's hull, but in Elara's very bones. The Whisper Wind, her sleek exploration vessel, was designed for silence and stealth, yet now it sang with the resonant frequency of the guiding thread. It wasn't a harsh sound, but a deep, comforting hum, like a lullaby sung by the cosmos itself, laced with an underlying current of urgency. Pip, nestled on the navigation console, twitched an ear, his bioluminescent fur shimmering in response to the thread's brightening glow. They had left the familiar spiral arms of their home galaxy far behind, venturing past known star clusters and charting new, uncharted cosmic oceans. The Weaver's veil, a distant memory now, had marked the boundary of the comprehensible, but the thread had pulled them beyond. Here, the stars were sparse, scattered like forgotten jewels on velvet. Yet, the void was anything but empty. The thread, a luminescent pathway woven from pure energy, pulsed with an internal rhythm, a heartbeat Elara felt echo within her own chest. Sometimes it would flare, painting the observation dome in hues of sapphire and emerald, projecting fleeting, almost subliminal images. A spiral of light, a complex geometric pattern, a ripple across a surface that seemed to stretch infinitely. Elara found herself instinctively reaching out, not with her hand, but with her mind, trying to grasp the nuances of these silent communications. "It's changing its language," Elara murmured, more to herself than to Pip. "It's not just a direction anymore, it's telling us a story." Pip chirped, his head tilting. A tiny holographic projection of a star chart flickered from his collar, superimposed with the glowing thread, now depicted as a shimmering river flowing through the void. He pointed a small paw at a region of space ahead, a region that on their charts was a blank, marked only by the thread's brilliant flow. As they delved deeper, the nature of space itself seemed to warp and shift. They passed through nebulae unlike any Elara had ever studied, not mere clouds of gas and dust, but swirling currents of pure, unfettered light. These were the chromatic maelstroms, where photons danced in impossible ballets, creating kaleidoscopic storms that Elara had to navigate with extreme precision, her hands flying across the Whisperwind's controls. The ship's adaptive shielding shimmered, deflecting streams of energized particles that would have vaporized a lesser vessel. Elara felt a profound sense of awe, a humbling reminder of the universe's boundless creativity. "Hold tight, Pip," she'd say, as the Whisperwind dipped and soared through a particularly vibrant current, the ship's internal lights dimming to let the full spectacle of the cosmos flood the dome. Pip would respond with a squeak of delight, his fur bristling with the sheer energy of it all. He wasn't afraid, he was captivated, just like her. Beyond the maelstroms lay the echoing voids, vast stretches where the stars seemed to vanish entirely. Here, the thread glowed with a cooler, more subdued light, almost as if it were holding its breath. Elara learned to listen, not with her ears, but with her whole being, to the subtle distortions in the fabric of space-time that hinted at these hidden regions. Her senses, usually so precise, struggled to define the boundaries of these voids. They felt like absences, not just of light, but of a presence, yet Elara felt a strange sense of ancient echoes within them. Whispers of forces long dormant. One such void held a peculiar phenomenon, the crystallized asteroid fields. Millions of asteroids, not rugged rock, but gigantic, perfectly faceted crystals, floated in silent formation. Each crystal caught the distant starlight, refracting it into dazzling, ethereal rainbows that painted the blackness. As the Whisperwind glided through them, the crystals hummed, a low melodic vibration that resonated with the thread's own pulse. Elara noticed faint, intricate patterns within the crystalline structures, like dormant circuits waiting to be activated. Were they natural? Or the remnants of some forgotten civilization, their very cities turned to stardust diamonds? "They feel alive, don't they, Pip?" Elara whispered, her voice hushed by the sheer beauty. Pip nudged her hand, his eyes wide, reflecting the shimmering light. She activated a low-frequency scanner, picking up faint energy signatures, almost like a dormant biological process, within the largest crystals. It was as if these ancient formations were slowly, silently, eye-breathing. The thread pulsed, a gentle urging, guiding them deeper, past these wonders and mysteries. It began to take on a more urgent hue, shifting from serene blues and greens to warmer golds and oranges. The subliminal images it projected became clearer, more insistent, a fractured circle, a tearing motion, a sense of unraveling. Elara felt a tightening in her chest. The plea was growing stronger, more desperate. They entered a region where the fabric of reality itself seemed thin. Temporal rifts flickered at the edges of their vision, brief shimmers where space-time folded in on itself, causing moments to stretch or compress. Elara had to navigate carefully, relying entirely on the thread's guidance, which now radiated a steady, unwavering beam. Her ship's chronometers would occasionally jump forward or backward by a few seconds, only to correct themselves, leaving a strange, dizzying sensation. "This is it, Pip," Elara said, her voice taut with anticipation. "We're getting close. I can feel it." The thread was no longer just a path, it was a conduit of raw emotion. Elara felt a profound sorrow, a sense of immense loss and a desperate hope pouring through it. It was overwhelming, almost too much to bear, yet she anchored herself to the Whisperwind's controls, her resolve hardening. Whatever waited for them, it needed her. Ahead, where the thread converged into a blinding point of light, a phenomenon unlike any Elara had ever witnessed began to manifest. It wasn't a star, nor a nebula, nor a black hole. It was a tear. A colossal, shimmering rift in the very canvas of space, like a wound bleeding pure light into the void. It pulsed with the thread's rhythm, but magnified 1,000-fold, radiating an energy that made the Whisperwind hum with protest. The tear wasn't static. It was slowly, agonizingly, expanding. And from within its depths, Elara could perceive glimpses of something else, something she beyond. Shifting geometries, colors that defied known spectrums, and what looked like fragments of other realities, swirling together in a chaotic dance. What in the cosmos is that? Elara breathed, her voice barely a whisper. Pip, instead of his usual chirps, was utterly silent, his small body tense, his fur a kaleidoscope of worried colors. The thread, now a searing column of light, plunged directly into the heart of the tear. It was pulling them in. Elara engaged the Whisperwind's inertia dampeners and brought them to a cautious halt just at the threshold of the shimmering rift. Her sensors screamed warnings, registering impossible energy fluctuations and quantum instabilities. "We can't just fly into that, Pip," Elara said, though even as she spoke, she knew it wasn't true. The plea was too strong. The thread was too insistent. This was the source. She ran diagnostics, her fingers flying across the holographic interfaces. Every system was redlining, struggling to interpret the chaotic energies radiating from the tear. The Whisperwind was designed for exploration, not for breaching the fundamental laws of existence. There must be a way to stabilize it, or to pass through safely, she mused, her eyes scanning the tear's edges. It looked like a fabric being pulled apart, its threads fraying. And then, it hit her. The weaver's veil. The ye fabrique of reality. The eye threading. This wasn't just a tear in space, it was a tear in the universal tapestry. And the thread guiding them wasn't just a path, but a single intact strand from that very tapestry, reaching out for help before everything unraveled. Elara activated the Whisperwind's long-range subspace scanner, focusing it on the tear. The data that flooded her console was incomprehensible at first, a jumble of non-Euclidean geometries and paradoxes. But then, a pattern emerged. Deep within the tear, glimpsed between the chaotic flashes of other realities, was a structure. Or perhaps, a being. It was immense, ancient beyond measure, and radiating the very same signature as the guiding thread. It appeared to be a colossal, intricate loom, or perhaps a nexus of interwoven energy, struggling to hold itself together. And surrounding it, like motes of dust, were smaller shimmering entities, desperately trying to repair the damage. They were like tiny, living needles, weaving and reweaving, but they were losing the battle. The tear was growing. "They're the weavers," Elara whispered, a revelation blooming in her mind. "Or what's left of them, and that's their loom, the source of the fabric." The silent plea intensified, a wave of profound despair, mixed with a spark of hope. It was a plea for aid, for understanding, for a way to mend what was broken. Elara felt a surge of adrenaline, mixed with a deep well of compassion. This was bigger than any scientific discovery, any charting of new stars. This was about the very foundation of existence. "Pip, can you interface with the thread directly?" Elara asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Can you try to understand its intent, not just its direction but what it needs?" Pip chirped, his antennae quivering. He extended a small glowing tendril from his paw, touching the holographic projection of the thread on the console. His fur pulsed rapidly through a spectrum of colors, his eyes closing in concentration. Elara watched, holding her breath, as Pip seemed to meld with the energy of the thread. A moment later, Pip gasped, a sound Elara had rarely heard from him. His eyes snapped open, wide and full of a profound sadness. He chittered rapidly, a complex stream of data and raw emotion flowing into Elara's mind through their empathic link. Unraveling. The great knot is loose. The pattern is failing. They try but cannot hold. Elara understood. The weavers, these ancient beings or entities responsible for maintaining the fabric of reality, were losing their grip. Something fundamental was breaking, and they were trying to hold it together with their dwindling strength. The great knot must be the nexus, the very core of their weaving. Is there anything we can do? Elara pressed, her voice urgent. Anything the whisper wind can offer? Pip hesitated, then projected a new image onto the console. It was a schematic of the tear, but superimposed with a faint, almost invisible energy signature emanating from their own ship, specifically from the core of the Whisperwind's warp drive, the very technology that allowed them to bend space and traverse vast distances. It was a subtle, resonant frequency, almost a harmonic. Your ship, a small thread, but strong, resonant. It might reweave, if guided. Elara stared at the schematic, her mind racing. The Whisperwind's warp core utilized a unique energy field, a localized manipulation of space-time itself. Could that field, carefully modulated, act as a temporary patch, a reinforcement for the fraying cosmic fabric? It was a wild, unprecedented idea, but it was the only one they had. The implications were staggering. To enter the tier would be to risk their very existence, to potentially be unmade, scattered across countless realities. But to do nothing, the thought was unbearable. The despair emanating from the tear was a tangible thing, a cold dread that seeped into her soul. "All right, Pip," Elara said, her voice firm, tinged with a blend of fear and fierce determination. "If the Whisperwind can help, then we will." She began to reconfigure the ship's primary systems. This wasn't about warp speed or sublight travel. This was about manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe on a scale previously thought impossible. She rerouted power from non-essential systems, channeling it all into the warp core, preparing it for an unprecedented localized energy discharge. The console indicators flared, systems coming online with a low, powerful hum that vibrated through the deck plates. The Whisperwind, usually a silent glider, now throbbed with latent energy, its very being focused on this single, impossible task. As Elara worked, the tier continued its slow, inexorable expansion. Glimpses of other realities became more distinct. A sky made of liquid fire, a landscape of floating islands, a city of light built within a nebula. The sheer chaos was mesmerizing, terrifying. "We need to be precise, Pip," Elara instructed, her eyes locked on the tier. "The thread is our guide, we follow its pulse, and we use the Whisperwind's core as a needle, a very big, very powerful needle." Pip nodded, his small paws already manipulating holographic controls, refining the thread's projected path into a precise trajectory within the tier. He was a master of energy manipulation, his inherent connection to the cosmos often surpassing even the Whisperwind's advanced AI. "Engaging minimal forward thrust," Elara announced, her hand hovering over the navigation controls. The Whisperwind began to inch forward, its sleek hull reflecting the chaotic, beautiful light of the tier. The transition was jarring. One moment, they were in the familiar void of space. The next, they were immersed in a kaleidoscope of impossible colors and shifting dimensions. The ship's internal stabilizers shrieked in protest, struggling to maintain equilibrium. Gravitational forces twisted and pulled, threatening to tear the Whisperwind apart. But the thread, now a blinding river of pure light, held them. It wrapped around the ship, a protective cocoon, guiding them deeper into the heart of the unraveling. The sorrow and desperation from the weavers were overwhelming here, a chorus of silent anguish that echoed through Elara's mind. She could see them now, closer. The weavers. They weren't sentient beings in the traditional sense, not carbon-based life forms, but rather intricate constructs of pure energy and light, each one a miniature, living loom, desperately trying to re-stitch the cosmic tapestry. Their forms were graceful, constantly shifting, their countless luminous tendrils working with frantic, silent urgency. But they were failing. The tier was too large, the unraveling too rapid. And at the very center, the colossal great knot, a swirling vortex of energy that held the fundamental constants of the universe in delicate balance, was slowly, agonizingly, coming apart. It was a sight that filled Elara with both terror and a profound sense of purpose. "Pip, now!" Elara commanded, her voice ringing with resolve. "Channel the core's energy through the thread, let it resonate with their weaving." Pip, his whole body glowing, focused. The Whisperwind's warp core hummed, then roared, not with the sound of propulsion, but with a deep, resonant tone that vibrated through the very fabric of the tear. A beam of pure shimmering energy, like a thread of pure starlight, erupted from the Whisperwind's bow, following the guiding thread directly into the heart of the great knot. As the Whisperwind's energy connected with the unraveling nexus, something remarkable happened. The chaotic energies of the tear momentarily stabilized. The frantic movements of the weavers paused, their luminous forms turning towards the source of this new, powerful thread. A wave of astonishment, then hope, washed over Elara through the empathic link. The weavers, sensing the resonance, began to integrate the Whisperwind's energy into their own desperate efforts. Their tendrils, now revitalized, began to weave with renewed vigor, drawing upon the ship's core. Elara felt the drain, a profound emptiness as the Whisperwind poured its lifeblood into the cosmic wound. The ship's systems flickered, warning lights flashing. "We can't sustain this indefinitely," Elara gasped, the strain immense. "It's too much." Hold, just a little longer," Pip urged, his small voice strained. "They are learning, adapting." Indeed, the weavers were not simply absorbing the energy, they were replicating its harmonic frequency. Elara watched in awe as the shimmering energy from the Whisperwind's core was amplified, mirrored, and then woven into the fraying edges of the great knot. The chaotic glimpses of other realities receded, replaced by a more stable, albeit still shimmering, light. The tear began to shrink, slowly, imperceptibly at first, then with a steady, determined progress. The weavers, working in concert with the Whisperwind's unique resonance, were mending the fabric. It was like watching a vast cosmic wound slowly knit itself back together. Elara felt relief flood her, but also a growing exhaustion. The Whisperwind was running on fumes, its core dangerously close to critical failure. She had pushed it, and herself, beyond anything she had ever imagined possible. "Pip, we have to disengage," Elara urged, her voice weak. "We'll burn out." Pip nodded, his own energy visibly flagging. With a final shared effort, he expertly tapered the energy flow from the Whisperwind, allowing the weavers to take over completely, now equipped with the replicated harmonic frequency, to continue their repairs. As the Whisperwind slowly disengaged, pulling back from the mending tear, Elara saw the weavers turn to them. This time, it wasn't a plea of desperation, but a wave of profound gratitude, a silent blessing that resonated deep within her soul. The tear, though still visible, was now a manageable seam, slowly closing, its chaotic energies contained. They had done it. They had helped mend the very fabric of reality. The Whisperwind, sputtering and groaning, limped away from the closing tear, back into the more familiar, albeit still strange, cosmic ocean. Elara slumped in her pilot's chair, utterly spent, but a profound sense of wonder and accomplishment filled her. Pip collapsed onto the console, his fur dim, his breathing shallow. "We did it, Pip," Elara whispered, reaching out to gently stroke his head. "We really did it." Pip let out a soft purr, a tired but content sound. As they drifted, the Whisperwind slowly recharging its depleted systems, Elara allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The guiding thread, no longer urgently pulling, still connected them, but now it was different. It felt like a handshake, a silent promise, a permanent bond forged in the crucible of cosmic crisis. But the universe, Elara knew, was never truly static. A new, faint signal began to register on her long-range sensors. It wasn't a distress call, nor a plea for help. It was a question. A complex, multi-layered data stream, emanating from a region of space far beyond even where the tear had been. It was a pattern, a series of interwoven queries, asking about the nature of the weavers, about the great knot, and about the very act of mending. It was a signal of profound curiosity, almost academic in its intensity, yet laced with an ancient wisdom that made the hairs on Elara's arms stand on end. Someone or something out there had been observing the unraveling, observing their intervention, and now observing the mending. And it was asking questions Elara hadn't even considered. Who were these observers? What did they want to know? And why hadn't they intervened themselves? The thread, now a gentle pulse of curiosity rather than urgency, seemed to hum in agreement with the new signal. It felt like a call to a different kind of exploration, a journey not just to mend, but to understand. The universe, vast and intricate, had just revealed another layer of its infinite complexity, and Elara, with Pip slowly stirring by her side, felt the familiar tug of destiny. The journey, she realized, was far from over. There were more questions than answers, more mysteries to unravel, and more threads waiting to be discovered across the boundless cosmic tapestry. The hum of the Stardust Weaver was a familiar lullaby, but tonight, a new, intricate melody wove through its core systems. Elara, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface, felt the echo of the signal in her very bones. Pip, nestled beside her, let out a soft whine, his feathery antennae twitching, sensing the profound shift in Elara's focus. "It's all right, little one," Elara murmured, stroking his iridescent scales. "It's a new song, a very old song perhaps." The signal wasn't just a sequence of data. It was a symphony of cosmic intent. Her initial analysis confirmed its non-gravitational nature, ruling out any conventional propulsion system. It was pure information, broadcast with an almost impossible clarity across light years. The origin point, triangulated through complex stellar cartography, pointed to a region of space known as the Veiled Expanse, a dense, perpetually swirling nebula previously deemed too hazardous for long-range probes, its gravitational anomalies and radiation storms impenetrable. The Stardust Weaver is designed for resilience, but the Expanse, the repairs from their last journey, were only halfway complete. The energy conduits needed recalibrating, the primary shield emitters were still sluggish, and the long-range comms array had a persistent glitch. But the urgency of this new signal overshadowed everything. It wasn't a distress call, nor a territorial warning. It was an invitation. "We have to go, Pip," she decided, her voice firm, yet tinged with the familiar thrill of the unknown. "This isn't just about mending a ship, it's about mending a gap in understanding." Pip chirped in agreement, nuzzling her hand. He seemed to understand the gravity of the decision, the pull of the uncharted. Elara spent the next few days in a flurry of concentrated effort, patching the Stardust Weaver to optimal travel capacity, prioritizing shield integrity and navigation systems. She downloaded every known star chart of the Veiled Expanse, overlaying them with theoretical models and simulations of nebula dynamics. There was no direct route, no established path. This would be true trailblazing. As the Stardust Weaver finally disengaged from the orbital repair dock, leaving behind the familiar glow of the galactic core, Elara felt a surge of exhilaration. The stars outside the viewport became streaking lines of light as they engaged the faster-than-light drive, plunging them into the deep currents of interstellar space. The journey was long, stretching over what felt like an eternity in the silent, stardusted void. Days blurred into weeks, marked only by the ship's steady progress and Elara's rituals, monitoring the signal, fine-tuning the ship's systems, and sharing quiet moments with Pip. He would often perch on her shoulder, his gentle hum a constant source of comfort. They traversed nebulae that painted the cosmic canvas with vibrant hues of emerald and sapphire, navigated asteroid fields that sparkled like shattered diamonds, and skirted the edges of nascent star systems where young suns blazed with furious energy. Elara's advanced sensor arrays, usually so adept at filtering out cosmic noise, began to pick up subtle anomalies, gravitational ripples that defied conventional physics, energy signatures that flickered into existence and vanished just as quickly. The Veiled Expanse was living up to its name, a realm of cosmic illusions and hidden truths. Inside the Stardust Weaver, Elara often found herself lost in thought, gazing out at the endless expanse. This journey felt different from any other. Previous expeditions had been driven by scientific curiosity, by the mapping of new worlds, or the recovery of lost technologies. This one was driven by a deeper, almost spiritual yearning. The signal had spoken to a part of her soul that craved not just knowledge, but connection. What kind of intelligence could broadcast such a profound wordless call? Was it a civilization reaching out? Or something far older, far more fundamental? One cycle, as they neared the heart of the expanse, the ship's primary shield emitter flared violently, warning lights flashing across the console. A rogue energy surge, unlike anything she'd encountered, threatened to overload the power conduits. Elara's training kicked in instantly. Her hands flew across the controls, rerouting power, stabilizing the plasma coils, her mind racing through diagnostic protocols. Pip, sensing her tension, pressed his head against her arm, a silent anchor in the storm. Within moments, she had contained the surge, but it left her shaken. The expanse wasn't just beautiful, it was actively hostile, or perhaps simply indifferent to their passage. It was a test, she realized, a natural filter to ensure only the most determined, or perhaps the most attuned, reached its core. Finally, after what felt like an epoch, the veiled expanse began to thin. The swirling dust and gas retreated, revealing a profound and utterly breathtaking spectacle. Before them lay not a star, nor a planet, nor even a conventional nebula. It was a vast, shimmering construct of pure light and energy, unlike anything described in any known scientific text or ancient myth. It pulsed gently, a cosmic heart beating in the void. It was colossal, encompassing an area larger than many star systems, yet it seemed to have no discernible physical form. Tendrils of iridescent energy, like spun starlight, reached out into the darkness, connecting to unseen nodes. The signal, which had been a distant whisper, now resonated through the ship, through Elara herself, a complex, multi-layered chorus of information and emotion. It was a call that felt less like sound, and more like pure understanding. "Look," Elara whispered, her voice full of awe. Pip's antennae were fully extended, glowing softly, mirroring the light outside. He chittered, a sound of wonder rather than fear. Elara guided the Stardust Weaver closer, her movements slow and deliberate, as if approaching a sacred site. The ship's systems, usually so analytical, seemed to be processing the phenomenon with a reverent silence. As they drew nearer, the construct began to resolve into greater detail. It wasn't just light. It was an intricate, three-dimensional tapestry of interwoven energy patterns, shifting and reforming with an ethereal grace. Within its depths, she could discern faint, ephemeral structures, geometric forms that defied Euclidean geometry, swirling vortexes of color, and fleeting glimpses of what looked like data streams rendered in light. This wasn't an alien spaceship, nor a planetary civilization. This was something far more profound, an artifact of cosmic scale and unimaginable antiquity. It felt like a living library, a collective consciousness, or perhaps a grand symphony of existence itself. Elara initiated a full spectral analysis, but her instruments struggled to categorize what they were seeing. It emitted no heat, no discernible radiation in the conventional sense, yet it thrummed with an incredible resonant energy. Her neural interface, usually reserved for direct ship control, began to react, picking up subtle frequencies that bypassed her conscious awareness, feeding them directly into her mind. A gentle pressure built behind her eyes, not painful, but insistent. It was the signal, no longer just a broadcast, but a direct communication, attempting to establish a link. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. "Open a direct neural conduit," she instructed the Stardust Weaver's Elara. "Aura. Maximum bandwidth. Prepare for data influx." "Warning, Elara," Aura's calm, synthesized voice responded. "Data stream integrity cannot be guaranteed. Potential for neural overload." "Understood, Aura. Proceed." Elara closed her eyes, placing her hands on the console, feeling the cool thrum of the ship's core. She leaned into the connection, allowing the signal to flow, not just into her mind, but into her very being. It wasn't a language of words, but of pure concepts, emotions, and experiences. She was flooded with images, not seen with her eyes, but felt with her soul. She saw the birth of stars, the slow dance of galaxies, the intricate unfolding of life on countless worlds. She felt joy, sorrow, curiosity, and an overwhelming sense of interconnectedness. It was a tapestry woven from the threads of countless civilizations, species, and intelligences across the cosmos, all contributing to this vast, living repository of understanding. The signal was a beacon, yes, but also a crucible. It was a memory, a hope, a shared dream. It revealed itself to be the collective consciousness of civilizations long past, who, facing their own ends, chose not to vanish, but to merge, to transcend physical form and become this cosmic nexus of knowledge and empathy. They had created this weaver of light to preserve their essence, to continue observing, learning, and most importantly, to share. It was a universal library, a school, a sanctuary. And it had been calling for someone. Someone who, like them, valued understanding, connection, and the intricate dance of life. Someone who sought to mend, not just what was broken, but what was isolated. Elara felt her own life, her own journey, reflected in its vastness. Her quest to repair the Stardust Weaver, to explore, to understand her place in the universe, it was all part of this larger cosmic narrative. The mending wasn't just about fixing engines or patching hulls. It was about repairing the fractured understanding between beings, bridging the vast distances of space with shared wisdom and empathy. The collective consciousness communicated a profound truth. The universe wasn't just a collection of physical objects, but a living, breathing entity, with consciousness woven into its very fabric. Every star, every planet, every living thing contributed to this cosmic tapestry of experience. And humanity, with its unique blend of curiosity and compassion. When Elara finally disengaged, a gasp escaped her lip. She felt different, fundamentally altered. Her mind was brimming with a depth of understanding that transcended mere knowledge. It was wisdom, infused with a profound sense of peace. The universe, once a vast and sometimes lonely expanse, now felt intimately connected, brimming with unseen life and shared purpose. Pip, who had remained still throughout the connection, chirped softly, rubbing his head against her cheek. He seemed to sense the shift within her, the new light in her eyes. "We found them, Pip," Elara whispered, tears silently tracing paths down her cheeks. Not an alien race to conquer or trade with, but a family, a cosmic family, built of light and memory. The Weaver of Light pulsed gently, as if acknowledging her words. It wasn't demanding anything, wasn't issuing commands. It was simply a being, and a sharing. It was an open invitation, a continuous offer of understanding for any who could find it, and who were ready to listen with their hearts as much as their minds. Elara knew she couldn't simply leave. But she also knew she couldn't stay forever. Her purpose, she now understood, was to be a bridge. To carry this understanding, this empathy, back into the wider galaxy. Not to preach, but to live, to explore with a renewed sense of purpose, seeing the interconnectedness in every star, every planet, every sentient being she encountered. The Stardust Weaver was no longer just a vessel for exploration. It was a carrier of cosmic empathy, a mobile beacon of shared consciousness. With a final lingering gaze at the magnificent Weaver of Light, Elara slowly turned the Stardust Weaver away. The journey back through the veiled expanse was different. The anomaly seemed less threatening, the turbulence less jarring. She navigated with an intuitive grace, guided by an inner compass that had been recalibrated by cosmic wisdom. As they emerged from the nebula's embrace, the familiar stars shimmered with a new intensity. The galaxy, once a collection of isolated points, now felt like a single magnificent organism. Elara looked at Pip, who was gazing out at the starfield, his antennae glowing faintly. "Our journey isn't over, little one," she said, her voice filled with a quiet strength. "It's just beginning, but now we know why we journey, to weave new threads into the tapestry, to mend the gaps and to share the light." She settled back in her pilot's chair, the familiar hum of the Stardust Weaver, a comforting presence. The universe stretched before them, boundless and full of mysteries, but now, Elara faced it not with a sense of lonely exploration, but with the profound knowledge that she was part of something infinitely larger, infinitely more connected. She carried the echo of the Weaver of Light within her, a quiet strength, a guiding star. And as she watched the distant nebulae drift by, she knew that every new discovery, every new connection, would be a note in the grand, unending symphony of the cosmos. The journey, truly, was far from over, but now, it was a journey of boundless understanding, woven into the very fabric of existence. She smiled, a deep, peaceful smile, ready for whatever wonders the cosmic tapestry held next.